Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you've been following my videos, then you may have seen this sketch before, maybe 2 weeks ago, and today I will make a little illustration based on that, so stay tuned. Okay, so the sketch I made was already a little bit stylized, but I decided to change the face again because she was looking too happy for what I wanted, and I made it a little more cartoonish and like children's book illustration wise simple. And what I'm trying to do here is like mix the whimsical with the realistic so that the body proportions are somewhat correct, but it's not too realistic. And that's what I'm striving to do using photos. And I don't think there's anything wrong with using photos. On the contrary, if you're not really good with anatomy yet, then they can be great help. And even some of the greatest illustrators in the world, like Rockwell, based their art on photographs. Even though Rockwell did change the photograph quite a bit, like the reference, making it a little more caricature and cartoon-like, but also quite realistic, so there's just a touch of fantasy in there, and I really like that. And that's what I'm kind of trying to do in another style, but I find that these little drawings that I've been doing have been helpful because they're so small and they get done quite quickly, and I still learn from them. So I'm now working on the tutu, and the more I work towards the outer edge, I'm using more water so that it becomes lighter and lighter, because I wanted this effervescent and light and airy quality to the painting. And what you can see here is that I'm loading my brush with a little bit too much water, and I'm depending too much on my tissue that I use to absorb the excess. It works that way, but another way, if you don't want to keep dabbing your work with the tissue, you can also just make sure to wipe off the excess water before you go into your painting. I've actually been trying to look for or trying to find books by Rockwell, especially the ones that show his process, like how we went from photo to illustration, and also other books by Loomis. I do have a PDF version by Loomis, but I'm more of a fan of real books that you can hold in your hand instead of using your laptop or whatever to read it, especially for reference books that you just, when you have a problem, you encounter something and you just want a quick solution. I'd rather take a book into my hand than like search through my digital information, if you know what I mean. And I haven't been very successful because I'm in Germany, and it seems that through YouTube, a lot of the artists that I'm interested in to learn from are, not all of them, but most of them right now, are from the United States, or were from the United States. And of course in Germany there's more focus on German artists, like you can find Paul Klee and Beuys and I don't know, all kinds of German artists here, but not really the ones that I'm trying to find. So no Leyendecker and no even Heinrich Klei and those kind of things that Disney was probably based on. But what I did find in an antiquarian bookstore was an edition of Little Nemo in Slumberland, so I was really happy with that. And my search was not completely in vain, but it looks like I will have to find some other things online. Yeah, just to do something useful with my free time, because I've been telling myself not to read novels and focus more on this art journey, and I think some books would be a great addition to that. But I'm going on a little tangent here, sorry. I did not want to really make this a detailed tutorial because I find it hard to explain what I'm doing, since a lot of what I'm doing is based on my gut feeling. And the basics are really there, like 3 watercolor techniques that you need to know. And everything else I feel just you come across while you're doing it. So colors really only exist in relation to each other. Like this color would look completely different if I had a gray square next to it or a red square or something like that. And the same thing goes for values. I did not do any studies for this one because it's just such a small and simple painting. But if you're doing something a bit more complex, then it would probably make sense to do a value study and a color study and plan everything a little better. Especially for the value study, I feel like with watercolors, everybody tells you to go from light to dark, which makes sense because you cannot make watercolor any lighter than it is. You can always only make it darker, like you can't add a white layer of thick gouache or oil. I mean, you could if you want to make a mixed media painting like I'm doing, but you can't do it with watercolor. So it does make sense to like plan out your values first. But I've seen people start with dark colors that way and move on to the light, and that worked for them. So I guess it's all a matter of experience, and that's what we're trying to gain here. And I feel that the most important thing is really to have fun while you're doing this, and the learning will happen automatically. And I'll just put down the main colors and then see, okay, I want a bit more intensity here, and I want a bit more saturation here, and change the background and so on. And not everything works out, but that's the process of learning. So I won't bore you with specific instructions, but just let you watch the rest on your own, and I hope you enjoy. I'm now moving on to the last bit of alteration and just adding some interest to the background, using gouache in this case, because like I said, you can't really use white watercolor to lighten anything up. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you next week. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and see you soon. Bye bye!